Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about viewability. Viewability is one of our KPIs. It allows us to count impressions that have been fully on screen and viewable by a human and not a robot. Sometimes a user visits a website, our ad is served, but say it's a middle banner. If the user doesn't scroll past the home page, our ad has not been viewed. So this ad would not be counted to be billed off of. It was served, but was not viewable. Therefore, we cannot bill off of the impression served. This creates a discrepancy between first and third party, which is why subs are important to close that discrepancy gap. We measure viewability through Moat, which is a third-party server for us. I have our dashboard pulled up. Here, we go into Moat, and then we'll go into DFP, Cargo, DFP New. We'll click that. As you can see, here are all of our advertisers running with our Moat pixels appended. You can also see it by campaigns, line item, creative, etc. And that you can change up here. Let me go into an advertiser to show you more of the dashboard. Here we clicked into, once I find it, Nova Southeastern University. You can see there are two campaigns running. Let's click into one. Now you'll see all of the line items running in this campaign for the date set. Let's pick the date range for the campaign lifetime, which I know for this campaign is from January 23rd until the day prior. We always pull reports for the day prior as it gives us more accurate data instead of confusing it with today's current running numbers as they change by the second, minute, etc. We can now look at settings, which is over here in the right corner, to pick which settings you'd like to see filtered. For viewability, as mentioned above, we work off of human metrics. So I'll scroll down and uncheck everything we don't need. These are just the Moat metrics. So in order to take out bot traffic, we're going to go down to human metrics, which are found here. I'm going to select human and in-view measurable impressions, which are the number of impressions where viewability related metrics were measured and were determined to be delivered to a human endpoint. I'm also going to select human and viewable impressions, which are the number of impressions that were viewable under the MRC standard and were delivered to humans. We can also select an in-viewable rate. However, it is best practice to calculate the in-view rate by yourself in the Excel doc once we export the file. The human in-view rate is defined as the percentage of measurable impressions that were viewable under the MRC standard and were delivered to humans. So I'm not going to select that and just calculate that later in the video, and I'll show you how to do that. If you want, we can also select impressions analyzed, which just show how many impressions Moat has analyzed for the line item overall. However, I'll leave it out for this example. So we can click out of this, and now we have the line items for our date range shown here, human and in-view measurable impressions here, and human and viewable impressions there. Now that you have a bit of an understanding of what viewability is and how to read the Moat dashboard, we will take a look at how to optimize towards high viewability sites. So we will export this data. So we're going to click Exports here in the right-hand corner, Export CSV. We will click Current View, which will export what we had on our dashboard. Make sure to include site to see which sites have good in-view, as that is what we are trying to optimize towards. Double check to make sure the appropriate data set and metrics are selected, and then click Export. So we see here the campaign lifetime that I entered in, the advertiser, campaign, line item, and site, and then we're looking at human and in-view measurable impressions and human and viewable impressions. So now that that's correct, I'm going to click Export all the way down at the bottom here. Sometimes it can take a little bit of time, so just be patient. There it is. I'm going to pull it out of my downloads. Here it is. Open that up and make that bigger. So once we have this export, we will calculate the in-view percentage. So I'm going to go in here in column K, title this in-view percentage. I'm going to open these up so I can see what I'm calculating. And that's going to be this formula. It's going to be equals human and viewable impressions divided by human and in-view measurable impressions. I'm going to click enter, and I'm going to copy that down. However, I'm going to make this a percentage, which you can do right here, so we can see what percentage in view each of these sites had. So we can pivot this data to have a better understanding of the high-performing in-view sites per placement and line item, or you can filter, which is what I prefer to do, how we perform for each line item. So I'm going to click here, filter. Once I find filter, here it is, filter. So now I'm going to expand this so I can see the sites, and I'm also going to expand the line item. I like to get rid of the unnecessary things that I don't need, as it can be confusing. So I'm going to delete these columns since I'm just trying to look at the line item and site. So delete. And I can delete this site ID as well. And now we just have our site label, our line item, our human and in-view measurable impression, our human and viewable impressions, and our in-view percentage. What I like to do to take out our data that is skewing, since there's so few impressions that are inserted, I like to filter here in human and in-view measurable impressions that it is greater than or equal to 10,000 impressions. So now I do that, and sites that have served less than 10,000 impressions will not be calculated. I would also like to filter the in-view percentage to be in descending order so that I can see the ranking of sites that have good performance from highest to lowest. So what I'll also do is I will filter the line item label to include only the line items for the placement that I am thinking of. So the line item that I am searching for is going to be the anchor com. So I'm going to take out all of the procs and just make sure that I'm only looking at com. So there I go. And now I see the highest performing sites for my anchor com placement. So when we're optimizing, we're going to scroll down to the bottom and we're going to see these low in-view percentages. That means that this in-view percentage and this site is bringing our average in-view down a lot. So something you can do to optimize would be to take out some of these sites that are found here on the bottom, such as Sports Illustrated, MTV, and J14. Another thing you can do to optimize is to focus on high-performing sites and make a carve-out to increase in-view. So here we see that VH1, Elite Daily, and Livestrong have very high in-view rates. Therefore, we want to send as many impressions to those sites as we can. Another good tool is this Moat Viewability Site List sheet, which is found here. This sheet is broken out by format and site, so you can see high-performing viewability sites for each type of unit. This sheet is calculated through average in-view and standard deviation, so it creates a dynamic skew where most of the data will fall between B and C sites, which means in order to optimize, we should be focusing on A sites. If you see a site, say for Anchor, that has high viewability, such as Business Insider with 89% in view, and you don't have that site on your site list, reach out to your AM and see if you can include the site. Another thing just to note about this site list sheet is that sites under 100,000 impressions were filtered out before making these tables on the dock, as to not skew this data either. This sheet is updated year to date. So now you have a bit of a top layer overview of viewability, the Moat dashboard, and how to optimize towards high viewability sites. Thanks.